The message wasn't even addressed to me. It just popped up. Casual. Unassuming. The kind of thing you might see between coworkers or old friends. I missed you between haircuts. It appeared on the iPad she left charging in the kitchen, still connected to her messages. I wouldn't have even seen it if I hadn't been setting up a grocery list for our Sunday run. Her name, Emily, was at the top. The sender? Just a first name, Mason. My fingers hovered over the screen, not scrolling. Just staring. A blue bubble. That's all it was. 5 words that changed the temperature of the room. I could hear the shower running upstairs. Her soft humming under the rush of water. She did that when she felt safe. When her walls were down. I tapped it. The thread opened with no fanfare. No password. No drama. Mason. Missed you between haircuts. Emily. That long, huh? Mason. Long enough to make me wish you'd stop letting it grow out. Emily. You're the only one who noticed. I closed the app without reading more. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't ready to see what came after that. Maybe some part of me wanted to cling to the idea that it was just flirtation. That's all. Nothing real. But something had already cracked. It was late March. A Sunday. Overcast. She wore the green sweater I used to love, the one with the stretched sleeves from too many lazy weekends. But I hadn't seen her wear it in months. Maybe even a year. And when she came downstairs, towel drying her hair, I realized something else. She had cut it again. It used to be subtle. A trim here. Bangs once. A color change I didn't notice until she pointed it out. But this was sharper. Cleaner. A look that didn't belong in our soft-lit kitchen, but under pendant bulbs in some curated downtown salon. You like it? She asked. I lied. Yeah. Looks great. She smiled. Half-hearted. Like she already knew I hadn't noticed until just now. And that's when I remembered something. For 8 years, she went to the same salon. Claire's on 5th. It was part of her rhythm, like clockwork. Every 5 weeks, Saturday mornings. She'd come back with her nails done, too. Claire gave her mint tea while the colors set. They talked about books and art museums and old films. And then 3 months ago, she just stopped mentioning it. I remember now because I offered to pick up pastries from the French bakery next door, and she said, "Oh, I don't go there anymore." Just like that. I didn't ask why. Now I wish I had. Later that night, I checked the iPad again when she was asleep, tucked under the navy duvet we bought in Charleston. She slept facing away from me these days. The thread with Mason was long, longer than I could finish in one sitting. It started almost a year ago, and this wasn't just a flirty exchange. Mason, you always hide behind that scarf when I compliment you. Emily, because I don't know what to say. Mason, say thank you. Or say, Mason, that's wildly inappropriate. Emily, I like how you see me. That's all. My stomach turned. I looked him up. Mason Hollowell. The name was on a Yelp review for a high-end salon 3 neighborhoods away. Studio 9. Young. Artistic. Too many bracelets. Sharp jaw. Probably the type who called women goddess without irony. And this man, this Mason, had been running his hands through her hair while she confided in him for the better part of a year. The hair was just a pretext. I scrolled down, caught something that made my blood run cold. A photo, cropped close. Her neck, her collarbone, hair falling down just so. Caption: sometimes I dream of touching her when no one's watching. Her reply was a heart. That was dated 2 months ago. Right around when I thought we were doing better. I closed the app, turned off the iPad, put it back exactly where I found it. Then I sat in the dark kitchen until the sun came up. It was almost funny, the way things lined up. If I had left 5 minutes earlier that Tuesday, I wouldn't have seen them. I had an early client call cancel last minute, so I stepped out to grab coffee. Not my usual spot. I wanted something different. Something with less chatter, less familiarity. That's how I ended up near Studio 9. I didn't even know where it was at the time. I just remember walking past a corner cafe with floor-to-ceiling windows and seeing the back of a man's head, leaning too close to a woman across a small round table. Her hands were wrapped around a cappuccino glass like she needed the warmth. His elbow rested on the table, casual. Familiar. It was her. Emily. And the man was younger. Not just by years, but by posture. Something about him said he still expected the world to want him. Wore it like a second skin. I stopped mid-step, watched them through the glass. She laughed. Not politely. Not nervously. She laughed like she hadn't at home in months. Like nothing was heavy. Like her life wasn't shared with someone else. She touched his hand. Just once. Just a tap at the wrist. But it lingered. Like it wasn't the first time. She looked so unlocked. And I stood there with a paper receipt in my hand and an empty name in my throat. I didn't go inside. I didn't take a photo. I just walked. Walked 2 blocks until the burn in my legs dulled the pulse in my chest. And I thought, maybe it's over already. Maybe they'd ended it, and this was the goodbye coffee. Maybe it was just a flirtation that had gone one message too far, and now they were closing the book. That would have been easier to believe if she hadn't come home that night humming. I watched her make tea in the kitchen. Same green sweater. Hair tied up. She kissed my cheek out of habit but didn't meet my eyes. When I asked how her day was, she said it was slow. Unremarkable. She had a way of lying that didn't even sound like lying. Just soft space where truth used to be. That night, I opened the iPad again. There were no new messages from Mason. Nothing obvious, at least. But something caught my eye. A sent email. Subject line, change of address. She was redirecting packages to a P.O. box I'd never seen. Attached to the email was a receipt. A card she'd ordered. Blank inside. The front said, I think of you when I rinse the dye out. She never sent me cards. Not even on our anniversary last month. She said cards were wasteful. I believed her. I started piecing things together like a man dragging nails across drywall, desperate to hear where it's hollow. She changed salons around the same time I switched projects and started working late. I remember missing her first new haircut completely. She'd come home glowing. I said, Did you get it trimmed? She said, You didn't notice? And smiled like she'd already forgiven me. She never mentioned Mason. I looked him up again that night. Studio 9 had a clean website. White and beige tones. Minimalist. Aspirational. A soft looped video played at the top, brushes through hair, steam rising from ceramic cups, scissors slicing like poetry. There he was. Lead stylist. Former artist. Believes in quiet beauty. I clicked through photos. Hairstyled like it wasn't touched at all. That kind of effort. That kind of illusion. Then I saw her. Not directly, but I knew it was her. One of the before and after shots. No face, just the back of her head. Her posture. Her neck. That necklace I bought her in Rome. And in the background, his reflection in the mirror, just slightly blurred. She was part of his portfolio. I went back to the thread on the iPad. Reopened the messages. This time, I didn't stop at the first 3. There were photos. Not explicit, not sexual. Worse. They were intimate. A shot of her hair wet, draped over the basin, his hand hovering just above her scalp. Another of her in the mirror, eyes closed, lips slightly parted like she was exhaling something too heavy to name. A mirror selfie of them both, his chin over her shoulder. Her phone. Her idea. I kept reading. Emily. I don't know how to talk to him anymore. Mason. You shouldn't have to speak so loudly to be heard. Emily. With you, it feels like I exist again. Like someone seeing me from the outside. Mason. I see you from the inside, too. I don't know how long I sat there, reading. She didn't tell him she loved him. She never said she'd leave me. But the intimacy was too deep for just an affair. This was something else. Something built slowly, brick by emotional brick. while I stared into spreadsheets and clung to the illusion of us. And still, I couldn't feel angry. Not yet. Just cold. Just displaced. Like I'd arrived at the wrong house and found someone else living inside it, calling themselves me. The next morning, I followed her. She said she had a dentist appointment. I knew she didn't. She took the bus downtown. Wore that scarf I used to tease her about, the one she only wore when she wanted to feel desired. I stayed a block behind. Watched her turn the corner and walk straight into Studio 9. She didn't look around. She didn't hesitate. He met her at the door. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. She smiled. And that was enough. I didn't confront her. Not then. Not even when she came home smelling faintly of eucalyptus and jasmine water, Studio 9's signature finish, I would later learn. She brushed past me in the hallway, humming again. And I felt it then. A note too full for someone coming from the dentist. She didn't see the way I watched her. How carefully I counted her blinks. How my eyes stayed fixed on the place where her wedding ring used to be. She'd started leaving it on the sink more often, said it made her fingers itch. I stopped asking questions. Stopped doing the obvious things. If she wanted invisibility, I gave it to her. I let the silence swell. I needed time. The next day, I drove to Studio 9. I didn't go in. Not right away. I waited. Watched from across the street as women came and went, each one exiting with a kind of post-transformation daze. That quiet confidence people wear after being witnessed for an hour by someone paid to look only at them. Eventually, I got out of the car and went inside. The air was warm, scented, heavy with lavender oil and pride. He stood behind the counter, typing something into a tablet. I recognized him instantly. Mason. His head lifted when I approached, eyes sweeping up with that polished calm of someone used to being admired. "Hey, man," he said. "You looking for a consultation?" I just looked at him. Not angry. Not emotional. Just present. He waited. I looked around the salon. Clean lines. Exposed brick. Everything styled to seem effortless, but curated to the millimeter. Even his posture matched the furniture too perfect. "You cut Emily's hair," I said. His jaw flexed. Just a small, reflexive movement. But it was enough. His tone stayed casual. "I have a few clients named Emily. She has a beauty mark on her shoulder," I said. "Right below the collarbone. You posted her photo last month. Portfolio page." Now he blinked. "I'm her husband." There it was. The full stop. He straightened. "Look, man. I'm not here to make a scene," I said. "You don't have to worry about that." He exhaled slowly, hands resting flat on the counter now. "Then what are you here for?" "To see you. Up close. To see what kind of man touches another man's wife and calls it art." His mouth twitched like he wanted to smile, but couldn't quite decide if that was the right move. "I didn't go looking for her," he said, quieter now. "She came to me." "I'm sure she did. It wasn't like that at first. It never is." He looked down. Then, finally, met my eyes. I didn't know she was married. I almost laughed. That's a convenient line for someone who has dinner with her. Sends cards. Sends photos. He was silent. That kind of silence that folds in on itself. Defensive, not guilty. I leaned forward slightly. "You're not the first man to mistake loneliness for permission." He didn't reply. I left then. Quiet. Civil. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw a punch. But as I turned back to glance at him through the window, I saw it. The hesitation in his stance. The first flicker of doubt. And something in me, something jagged and cold, was satisfied. I started laying groundwork after that. Nothing loud. Just small adjustments. I changed the password on the shared bank account. Opened a new one in my name only. Redirected my paycheck. She didn't notice. I forwarded our home Wi-Fi bill to my personal email. Added a device tracker. I mapped her logins. Her browsing. Her calendar app. Twice a week. Mason. Always in the afternoon. Always booked under a pseudonym. Eliza Wren. That one stung. Wren was the name we almost gave our daughter, back when we were still trying. She said she wanted to save it for something beautiful. I started printing the messages. Every one. Even the deleted ones she tried to wipe from her phone. iCloud kept them like a vault she didn't realize I had the key to. There was a system to their communication. Text. Delete. Email. Delete. Notes app. Code words. A relationship built on fragments. But the body remembers. The timeline adds up. You just have to know where to look. In one message, she mentioned the cabin. Emily. Wish we could go back to the cabin. No clocks. No shame. Mason. I can book it again. Mid-April. No one will be around. Emily. Tell me what you'd do if I wore that red thing again. Mason. You already know. We'd only been there once. A rental in Vermont. Snow up to the window ledges. That trip was mine. My surprise. She said it was too cold. Too remote. Apparently not anymore. I called the rental office. Pretended to be her assistant. Said we needed to confirm the dates. They had her under a new last name. Wren. 3 days. Mid-April. Paid in full. I didn't cancel it. I reserved the cabin next door instead. I was no longer the man she came home to. I was the man she left unnoticed. And I needed to know how far she was willing to take this. How deep her betrayal reached. The night before she left for the wellness retreat, I packed her favorite protein bars. Set out her weekend bag. Kissed her on the forehead and said, "You deserve a break." She smiled. Guiltless. Graceful. Said she loved me. And I almost believed her. She left Saturday morning. I drove 6 hours behind her. Kept my distance. Parked down the hill. Snow was starting to fall. The cabins sat quiet. Side by side. Identical. One lit. One dark. I sat by the window, lights off, camera in hand. I didn't know what I would do with the photos, but I knew I needed to take them. It was the kind of snow that didn't fall, exactly, it just hung in the air, drifting down like ash. Slow. Relentless. The road behind me had already vanished by the time I pulled my coat tighter and walked the narrow trail toward their cabin. I knew I wasn't supposed to be there, but I also knew no one would stop me. From my window, I'd watched her arrive 2 hours earlier. Alone at first. Hair tucked under a gray beanie. She used to hate the cold. Now she stood in it like it was hers. He arrived 20 minutes later in a dark jacket, moving like he'd done it before. I thought I'd be ready. I wasn't. They didn't kiss at the door. He didn't grab her like in the movies. It was worse than that. He unlocked the cabin, held the door for her, and she walked inside like it was home. Like she'd never left it. The light from the fireplace flickered against the far window. I couldn't see their faces, but their silhouettes told me more than I wanted. 2 bodies moving in rhythm. Familiar. Quiet. When I finally stepped onto their porch, I didn't knock. I just listened. Her laugh. Soft, like wind through pine needles. A sound I hadn't heard in our house for almost a year. I turned back. I didn't go in. I don't know why. Maybe because I knew what I'd see. Maybe because some part of me still hoped she'd walk out. Alone. Changed. Instead, I returned to my cabin. Sat in the dark. Wrote her a note I never intended to send. Emily. You said once that touch was language. That we say more through fingertips than lips. I didn't understand you then. I do now. I watched you this weekend. Not because I wanted to catch you, but because I needed to see what kind of man could unmake us. With scissors and a smile. I get it now. He looked at you when I stopped looking up. But tell me when the dye runs out. And the red fades from your sweater. And the mirror doesn't smile back. Will he still see you the way I did? When I built a life with you before the first haircut? Before you became someone I don't recognize. Jay. I folded it. Set it on the windowsill. The wind picked up outside. The trees leaned closer. At 1:17 a.m., I saw her silhouette again. She stepped outside barefoot, wrapped in a robe, a glass in one hand. She looked out at the woods, eyes searching for something. She didn't know I was out there. Didn't know I had become her ghost. She turned back inside without a sound. I returned home the next day. She was due back Monday morning. I cleaned the kitchen, vacuumed the guest room, set a kettle on the stove like nothing had moved while she was gone. I thought about confronting her. A speech. A reckoning. But it all felt hollow. Too theatrical. Too late. Instead, I waited. She came in around 11 a.m., wheeling her small bag behind her. Snow on her boots. Lips chapped. Hair tied loosely, still carrying the scent of someone else's hands. "Hey," she said, soft. "I missed you." I just nodded. She wrapped her arms around me, held on a second too long. I didn't say it back. She must have felt it, because she pulled back and studied my face like a stranger does when they think they know someone from somewhere, but can't quite place it. "You okay?" she asked. "Fine," I said. "Just tired." In the days that followed, I became meticulous. I kept my routine. Morning coffee. Emails. Gym. I stopped asking questions. Stopped scanning her phone. The iPad stayed locked in a drawer. She, on the other hand, began to shift. She asked if I wanted to go out more. Suggested date nights. Dinners. She wore earrings I hadn't seen in years. Laughed at jokes she used to roll her eyes at. Like she sensed something was slipping and was trying to reel it back in. But you can't unring a bell. You can't cut something that's already severed. And still, I played along. I let her feel safe. On a Wednesday, I got a message from Mason. I don't know how he got my number. "I didn't know you'd be there." That weekend. I didn't plan it like that. I'm not a monster. I didn't respond. He messaged again 2 days later. "She told me you've been distant, that she's scared you've given up. I didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted to see her. One last time." That last time must have been news to her, because a week later, I saw a new message pop up on her iPad. "Mason. Next time, stay longer. I want to fall asleep to your breathing. Emily. You make me feel 22 again, and reckless, and free." I closed the app. I stopped reading after that. I didn't need more proof. I had all the evidence I'd ever need. What I didn't have yet was the plan. That came later. Slowly, like heat rising under ice. I waited until she left her ring in the bathroom again. Then I took it. I didn't sell it. Didn't hide it. I mailed it. To Studio 9. No note. No return address. Just the ring in a small velvet box. Let her explain that. Let him open it. Let it settle between them like the silence I'd been living in for months. That weekend, she looked everywhere. She tore through drawers. Checked under the bed. In coat pockets. Makeup bags. "Have you seen my ring?" she asked. "The one you gave me after Barcelona?" I shook my head. "No." She stared at me. For a long time. Then whispered, "You're different lately." I sipped my coffee. "Am I?" She nodded. Her throat worked like she was about to say something else. Then she just turned away. That night, she didn't come to bed. I heard her crying in the hallway. But I didn't get up. I wasn't her comfort anymore. I was the consequence. There's something about betrayal that leaves a residue. You can clean the surfaces, burn the messages, scrub your search history, but it stays. In the rhythm of your voice, the stillness of a room, the way your hands tremble when nothing's wrong. She moved through the house like someone being watched. Because she was. Not by me. Not directly. But by her own guilt, now that I stopped shouldering it for her. She stopped going to Studio 9. Or at least, she stopped talking about it. The hair changed again, longer now, less sculpted. Like she was trying to return to something softer. The kind of softness that once made me fall for her. Too late. One Thursday, I came home early from work. She was in the living room with her laptop, knees pulled to her chest, our wedding album open on the floor. She looked up when I entered. Eyes red. Do you ever think about how happy we used to be? I didn't answer, because she wasn't really asking. She was stalling, feeling the edges, trying to find the version of me who'd sit beside her, kiss her temple, and say, "We can get back there." But that man was gone, replaced by the one who had just returned from the notary's office. A man with documents in his bag and a lawyer on hold. It wasn't about revenge. Not anymore. It was about removal, extraction, precision. The same things she once admired in me. The same things that made me invisible while Mason made her feel seen. You left the back door unlocked again, I said. She blinked. What? 3 nights this week. Oh. Her voice shrank. Sorry. But she wasn't. Not really. She didn't even remember. Her world had become a maze of omissions. Small slips. Invisible exits. I went upstairs, left the album untouched. The next morning, I slid the documents across the kitchen island. Her coffee had gone cold by the time she reached the last page. What is this? She asked, voice paper thin. Divorce, I said. She laughed. A brittle, breaking sound. You're not serious. I didn't blink. I am. You're ending this over a hairdresser? No, I said. I'm ending it because you did. She stood slowly. Jacob, I made a mistake. I was lonely. You pulled away. You shut me out. You cheated, I said, without raising my voice. You turned me into a ghost while another man touched you like he owned the blueprint. She flinched. It was the first time I'd said it out loud. The first time she heard herself reflected back, without the safety of a softened tone. I ended it, she said, desperate now. I swear. It didn't mean. I held up a hand. It meant enough for a cabin, for code names, for a name we saved for a daughter we'll never have. Her mouth opened, closed. Ren, I said, quieter now. You gave him that name. Not me. She sat down, her hands folded like she was about to pray or confess. I sent the ring, I said, to his studio. I thought maybe he'd propose, replace what I took from you. She stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. Then, you're cruel. I nodded. Only now. She reached for the papers. Not to sign them, just to touch them, to feel the weight. You're serious. Yes. Do you still love me? She whispered. I didn't answer. That was the cruelty. Over the next week, the house became a museum. She moved like a caretaker through halls we once built. Cleaned obsessively. Set the table for 2, even when she knew I wouldn't join her. I watched her unravel with outrage. Just observation. She left the iPad unlocked again. Not once did I check it. That was new. That was worse. I thought it would end there. The divorce. The silence. The finality of polite detachment. But then Mason reached out again. Not to me this time. To her. And she, forgetting everything, opened it near the printer. Forgot to log out. I didn't look. Until the email printed itself by mistake. Emily. You disappeared. No note. No goodbye. Just a velvet box and a receptionist who looked at me like I was a thief. I never wanted to be the man who destroyed your life. I just wanted to be the man who noticed. Did he hurt you? Do you need me to fight for you? Say something. I stood over the paper like it was bleeding. She never saw me hold it. Never saw me crumple it. Never saw me set it in the sink, douse it in water, watch the ink blur like fog over the past year. She didn't need to. She knew. That night, I left the final draft of the divorce papers on the kitchen table. Signed. Notarized. Labeled. All she had to do was sign. And she did. I came home 2 days later to find them in a sealed envelope. No note. No apology. Just her ring, placed carefully on top. The same one I mailed to him weeks earlier. A replica. Meaning she bought a new one. Tried to restore the illusion. Too late. I sat in the chair she used to curl up in with a book. The one by the window. The one she stopped using when she stopped reading. The silence in the house was perfect. Like a haircut after the final snip. Clean. Sharp. Done. She moved out quietly. 2 duffel bags, a few boxes. Left the furniture, the kitchenware, the wedding china we never used. I don't know where she went. I never asked. Maybe she moved in with a friend. Maybe she stayed with him. It didn't matter. What was strange was how little she took. No photos. No keepsakes. Not even the vase her mother gave her at our engagement party. She left everything that had weight. That's the part one didn't expect, how light she became in the end. How her absence felt less like a wound and more like the lifting of a fog. In the days after, I moved through the house differently. I sat in rooms I hadn't used in months. Listened to old records she used to say were too melancholic. Cleaned out the junk drawer. Found a bundle of receipts from the first year of our marriage, meals, gifts, an old parking ticket I paid for her without telling her. Back then, I kept everything. Now, I threw them out. Not out of anger, but because I didn't want to be the man who archived pain disguised as sentimentality. I changed the locks, painted the guest room, bought new towels. Little things. At first, the quiet felt like an aftershock. A stillness too deep to trust. I'd walk into a room and expect her perfume, the clink of her coffee spoon in the morning. But nothing came. Just light. Just air. I didn't tell many people what happened. My sister suspected something when Emily didn't show up to her daughter's birthday. My friend Brian asked if I was doing okay, the way men do when they don't want to pry. I gave them both the same answer. Things changed. That was enough. No one really wants to hear the details. Not the kind of betrayal that doesn't leave bruises but carves out pieces from the inside. Sometimes, I'd find myself standing in front of the mirror, wondering if he still touched her hair. If she still tucked it behind her ear like she did when she was nervous. If she ever talked about me. If she used words like cold, or distant, or not present. She probably did. And maybe that's fair. Maybe I was distant. Maybe I stopped seeing her before he started looking. But here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't start with action. It starts with permission. With small lies we tell ourselves to justify the erosion. And once you've let someone else see what should be sacred, it's already broken. Spring came early that year. I started running again. Woke up before sunrise, laced my shoes, and followed the same path we used to walk together on Sundays. Except now, I didn't stop at the coffee shop. I didn't take pictures of trees or remark on the early blooms. I just ran. One morning, I passed Studio 9. It had a for lease sign in the window. I stood across the street for a while. Not out of curiosity, but something quieter. The way you might visit a cemetery. Not to grieve, but to confirm something is truly buried. The chairs were still inside. So were the mirrors. I could almost see him, Mason, folding towels, brushing hair from a woman's shoulders, telling her she looked radiant. Maybe he thought he could build something permanent from the transience of attention. Maybe he believed she'd choose him. Maybe she did. Maybe it didn't last. I never checked. I found her ring again weeks later. Not the one I mailed. Not the replica. The original. Tucked inside the pocket of a coat she left in the hall closet. I turned it in my hand for a long time. At first, I considered tossing it, letting it sink to the bottom of a river or a garbage chute. But something stopped me. Not nostalgia. Not forgiveness. Something else. I drove it to a jeweler downtown. Had the diamond removed. Had them melt the band. They offered to reshape it into something new, a pendant, a cufflink, a pin. I said no. Just keep it as scrap. He looked confused, but nodded. It wasn't about turning pain into beauty. It was about letting it go. A year passed. I moved to a smaller place. Simpler. No shared closets. No photos on the mantle. I bought new dishes. Started cooking more. I ate dinner at the table instead of in front of a screen. I deleted her number. Not because I hated her, but because I knew one day I might feel weak. And I didn't want that version of me to have the option. She never reached out. Maybe she knew I wouldn't answer. Maybe she understood the silence was the answer. I saw her once, though, by accident, at the farmer's market in late September. She was alone, browsing flowers. Hair longer now, faded curls, no makeup. She didn't see me, and I didn't call her name. I just watched her walk away, a bouquet of yellow tulips cradled in one arm like an apology she couldn't deliver. People always say time heals. I don't think that's true. Time just gives you distance. And sometimes, from far enough away, the sharpest wounds become outlines. Sketches. Proof that you were brave enough to feel something real, even if it didn't last. These days, I cut my own hair. Nothing fancy. Just a mirror, a pair of clippers, and enough light. It's not perfect. Not even good. But it's honest. And I think that's more than enough. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.